For an ambulance is
Because we're talking about a $2,500 vehicle versus a,
Willie's been there.
yeah.
I didn't
Okay,
do
well-
any damage.
We'll call the meeting back to order, and there were no decisions made in the executive session. And
So I just wanted to let you guys know, we do have an agreement with the National Weather Service in Goodland and our emergency building. They have a new person down there in charge, so we did revisit that agreement. I went ahead and signed it. Again, basically that says if we're needing a place to go in an emergency and our building's not available, we can work out of there. And likewise, if something were to happen to their building, they can continue their operations by coming up here. So that's all that agreement is, just to let you guys know that. The ambulance 11A over in Bird City, it needs tires. They're fairly expensive. So, because we have to get speed rated tires. I did get, Grant actually worked on this for me. He got several bids. Frontier Ag in Bird City, they can actually get the government contract for the tires. And so that does come in at the lowest
okay.
at
Yeah, that's a pretty good price.
$1,530. So,
That's for 6 tires, right?
yeah, that's for 6. And then kind of along with that, we have to renew our service renewal in April. And so part of that is all of the ambulances have to go to a certified inspection every year. So we did contact US Ford because they're able to do those. They will be doing those. I don't know how that's been happening in the past, but as things come up, if it needs repaired, we kind of got to do it right then. They have them there. So I don't know
Are these
how we
ones
handle that.
Well,
It may be over the $1,500 mark. I don't know.
I think the best you can do is because we're talking about an ambulance that you need now.
Kind of a special
Yeah.
situation.
Give one of us a call.
Okay.
Are these the ones that go up to Nebraska?
No, they go
done.
here to Yost in
Oh,
St.
okay.
Francis. So we just rotate them. It takes about a week. We rotate like one of Bird City's over and yada yada, and we just because they have them for quite a while because they do the whole inspection.
And
they sign
especially
off.
if it's a safety
Yeah.
issue feature, tires, brakes, glass, those type of things, definitely.
Okay.
Let's
Yeah.
get-
So if there's a big expense, I'll get a hold of you guys and let you know. So,
Okay,
We need a motion on those tires.
Yeah.
yeah.
Make
That's
a-
Frontier.
Frontier Agenberg.
I move we accept the bid of Frontier Ag for the 6 tires.
I'll second the motion.
And that bid was $1,530.18.
We need a copy of this,
Yep.
please.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Okay. We did go through our ambulance service inspection and audit at the beginning of the year. They're two different, that's where they come in, they look at through all of our records and all of that stuff. The ground ambulances, all of 4 units, they all passed inspection. We had no deficiencies on any of the ambulances themselves, and I have those if you want those.
Good, no.
This is the admin and education inspection. We had a couple things that we had to work on. One of them we actually proved that day. So there was a protocol change back in February of last year that didn't get sent to them. That was caught. I said, how do we correct it? He said, send me the protocols. I emailed him right there at the table, and he goes, fixed. So that one was done. The other one was a QA issue. That is our quality assurance stuff. Quarters 3 and 4, which is July forward. So July, August, September, October, November, December of last year were all good. The deficiencies were prior to that. They were in first and second quarters.
Okay.
Even though we had a change of personnel up there, we have to go back and correct those. So we have talked with Dr. Lick. Jill is working on those. The issue is we had a medical director change as well. And so we still have to go back and fix those deficiencies. And so we are working on getting that done. Other than that, everything else, administrative and also the education was good. So,
Looks like everything except those 11 and 12. Well,
any
outstanding.
questions over that? Okay.
Good.
Okay. Tabitha and myself will be gone later in February. We have to go do some training for the changeover in the state software programs that we use for emergency planning and all that. It'll be over in Hoxie, so we'll be going to that. Jill is also, I'm going to try to get her into some more trainings and also some regional meetings. I feel it's important that she goes and she learns some of this new stuff. If we kind of stay in our bubble in our county, we sometimes get hit with changes that we weren't aware of later on. I think it's good to get out there and learn and stuff.
Because you can talk with your peers and see if they've done it and
Yep.
what mistakes they made. Yeah.
And then also, we're having a communications meeting next Tuesday, the 18th. Finally, Colorado and Kansas are coming together. We're having the meeting down in Goodland. We're going to sit down with the agency heads at the state levels to kind of talk through this and see if we can't figure out this long time communication gap we have with the state line out here. So
It's been a problem
it's
since.
been a problem for a while. So I think we've got some workarounds, and we're going to be discussing that. So.
Good.
Okay. That's all I have. Any other questions?
Good job.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just an observation. You're doing good.
The vehicle?
We had the opportunity to purchase the Expedition from the city that they have at the police department for a very good price. It's something I could use during snow, mud, stuff like that. Since we got a Charger out of the original contract, and I don't know if you guys are aware about the Chargers. The Chargers are not very good vehicles for inclement weather and for out here. So I was able to broker the deal, making a purchase of it for $2,500 fully set up, which is a good deal, especially with the radios and stuff like that in there. I guess the question now is, I'm more than happy if we use it for police use, to purchase that out of my asset forfeiture fund, so it does not come out of any of the taxpayers' base money. But it's my understanding that Ryan might be able to have a use for it, and we just kind of need to talk about what we would do, how we would do that, things like that. And I don't know, I've been on Ryan's rear. I know he's had other important stuff to do, and I've been trying to talk to him for several days. We've kind of talked through it and seen how we could use it or something like that. But I guess my question is before I submit the invoice to pay for it out of the asset forfeiture fund for law enforcement use, I didn't know if there was a use that Ryan could use it for, and he had something that he wanted to do with it, to purchase it that way. And I told the city council that, this is not an exclusive deal just for the sheriff's office if I do buy it. So they're aware of that. So I guess we just need to kind of talk
You need to
about
come
that.
up with some guidelines on how and when, and you're going to utilize this vehicle. Is that what you're talking about?
Well, I guess we're being very honest. I guess I don't know. I'm just going to be honest. I don't know if it's something that will work for Ryan. I don't know if Ryan needs something different than what this is for what his plans are, and how he needs to utilize it or not. And I guess that's what I'm.
Well, it sounds like you two need to come together and hammer that out, because Ryan indicated he would like to use it. He has a use for it. If we have a Bird City EMT on call, the run is in St. Francis, maybe use that vehicle to respond to that.
Is it gonna be unmarked?
If they're going to use it, I'm not going to put sheriff on it. We might just put Cheyenne County.
Is it got lights and siren?
It's got lights and sirens.
Okay.
And a cage and.
And that's part of what we're looking, when Cody come to me for $2,500, that's the
Yeah.
price of a radio.
You bet.
I mean, to put in it. And
Yeah,
so
it makes
we
a lot
don't
more
need
sense to
anything
it.
fancy or,
But you still need to comply with
Yeah.
Right.
with
Do we have
emergency
some place
vehicle
to house
status.
it?
Well, and that's our other thing we got to look at is where we're going to keep it. So
Well, it sounds like you guys, you work
Okay.
through it, and then once you're satisfied,
And we're starting to do more and more transfers now, too. And sometimes we pull a Bird City person for that, too. So that would also be another use of, they could come over here, meet up with this crew, and take the transfer. So
sure, you got a garage empty.
Okay, well, I gotta get going, but
Okay.
I guess, it's, My biggest thing was, I guess, you know me, it comes down to the money is what it was. My biggest thing is, I didn't know what we're thinking.
Well-
and honestly, if it's an older vehicle, it's low mileage, but it's old, if that makes sense. I don't know safety wise, what Ryan wants to do, if it's what he actually wants or whether he needs something different. And I guess that's the question I'd have for you guys, is I'm also afraid, if we make this arrangement, we've got a 16-year-old vehicle that has 80,000 miles on it. We start using it a lot, it's going to start racking up the miles, and now we have a 16-year-old vehicle with a lot of miles on it. And what is our plans for replacement? What is our plans for going forward with it?
At the cost of $2,500, I think we can drive that thing right into the ground. But,
And we're gonna put on miles less than he will.
yeah.
But I guess that's what I'm saying is, it's easy to say, okay, we bought a vehicle cheap, but how are we going to sustain this? What's our plans? What's our thoughts for 5 years from now when we come into the meeting? I will no longer need it because by then I'll replace the Charger with a
Well,
four-wheel drive vehicle. So I won't need
It's
it.
going to be impossible to determine that until after you start using it.
Okay.
And part of it was when he asked me, do you want it? I was like, I'm not even talked to the commissioner, but I can't even, $2,500, we gotta have a conversation with you
Yeah,
guys.
I'd probably buy it for that.
Okay.
Okay, well, you guys work on it, let us know.
Thank you.
Sure. And Sherry, I'm sorry we're running a little behind, but
You're fine.
you are actually
Go
next.
ahead. Okay, mine might take a little bit, I don't know, okay.
Helen's on the clock.
Well, I'm not, I have nothing to do
No,
afterwards,
no.
so. I just didn't want to keep you if you had stuff to do.
Well, good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for letting me steal a few minutes of your time this morning.
Sure.
I want to talk to you guys about a new addiction advocacy and treatment agency that we're opening up for Northwest Kansas. It's going to be based out of Colby. It's a nonprofit. We've already got our nonprofit status from the IRS. It'll be based out of Colby, but it's going to serve the 9 far northwest counties. So like Cheyenne, Rawlins, Decatur, Sherman, Thomas, Sheridan, Wallace, Logan, and Gove.
So the services, people seek you out or?
It can be any way that they walk in the door is how we'll take it. Some people will seek us out on their own. Some people will be sent to us from corrections.
That was my question.
Yeah. We will contract with the state of Kansas for Senate Bill 123, which is already funding similar programs in the eastern part of the state. But let me back up. There's several different services that we're going to offer. Right now, there isn't anything out here in Northwest Kansas that can provide drug and alcohol assessments. So right now, if they are required from the courts to go get that, they have to go to Hayes to get that.
No, they can get them in Colby.
Not,
Recovery way.
they don't do assessments. They only do the counseling.
So we just change that?
That was what I have been told.
'Cause I know
So,
Radac will do them too, in Colby.
but they don't have an office out here, right? They come out.
No,
Right.
Radac doesn't have an office. They do it via ITV. Recovery Way does have an office in Colby.
Yeah, they have an office. It's a one-person office. Ours will be a staff of 6. There's a lot of things that set our services apart from other counseling agencies. The first one is the assessments. The second one, of course, they'll get the counseling, which they can get counseling at other locations. But for an entity, our entire program is based around addiction, and it's not for grief counseling and those kind of things. The one thing that we will offer that has never been offered west of Salina, which we're pretty excited about, is the Certified Peer Mentoring Program. And that's a program through the state of Kansas. Kansas is only one of 6 states that has implemented this program. But it's an evidence-based certified peer mentoring program. They take a course to become certified through the state of Kansas. And what that is it bridges, it's somebody who's already been through what these people will be going through. They've already been an addict or an alcoholic and is now worked their way through it and is now living in long-term recovery. So that peer mentor will work with that client one-on-one a couple times a week to work on the long-term goals that have been set up in their individual treatment plan with the counselor. So, for example, somebody walks in our door, we will set them down with an advocate first, and they will do a client needs assessment. Part of that will be a referral to our licensed addiction counselor, who will then do the assessment. Based on those findings, almost always they're going to be referred for, if they're going to be receiving her services for the actual counseling part, then they'll also go in part with a certified peer mentoring counseling. And what they will do, let's say one of the goals is 90 meetings in 90 days, which is a very common goal in the beginning. So out here, we don't have a lot of meetings, 90 meetings in 90 days, so we have to find those resources. For an addict, when they hear that, it's so overwhelming that as soon as they miss one, you and I could maybe say 90 meetings, 90 days, that means I need to go do one every day, which would mean traveling around to some of the other counties to get that. But what they do is that peer mentor breaks down that goal. Instead of just the 90 meetings in 90 days, they'll be saying, do you know where the meetings are? Do you know what time they are? Do you need a sponsor? Do you need transportation to get there? Do you need childcare? Do you need to request time off? They'll figure out all that and break it down into bite-sized goals instead of this huge goal. And then when they see them the next time, let's say they're there on a Monday and they come back on a Thursday, well, by then they should have been to 3 meetings. And so at that point is when they hold them accountable. Well, have you been to the 3 meetings? If they have, great. They're going to congratulate them, build them up, build their self-esteem back up. If they're short, then they hold them accountable. Okay, you're too short. Where are we going to make this up at? Because you're not going to be able to make it up at the end if you keep going like this. So it may be one of those things, do we need to get online to find you a meeting online? Or maybe we're having a group that afternoon at the office, and maybe they need to come in and get that caught up. So that's kind of an example of what they will do. Those peer mentors will also be teaching pattern-changing classes, and the staff that we have picked out for those 2 positions, the male peer mentor will see the male clients, the female sees the female clients. And right now, they're already teaching those classes. The female's already teaching those classes over in Colby Ford Department of Corrections. So it's somebody who's already, that Corrections has already seeked her out to do that. And then they came and talked to the young man who's going to come work with this to start teaching the men classes.
You said this was a new program.
Mm-hmm. It's a brand new program.
Where'd you get your startup funds?
That's what I'm here for.
I was wondering when you...
Yep. And then we're also going to provide actual advocacy services. So we could go to court with them to provide emotional support for them. We could go to the DCF and St. Francis meetings when it comes to child custody. Our male peer mentor will specialize in the incarceration part, and the female will specialize in the child custody issues. Another thing that is different for our program that isn't done anywhere in the state is family advocacy. Behind every advocate is families or close friends that are enabling them. So we want to provide those services to support them too, because it really is a familial disease. It's not just an individual disease. So we will also be teaching pattern-changing classes for the family members, providing those advocacy services. We will also have a spiritual room where we'll do spiritual advocacy, not to be confused with religious. It could be anything from doing yoga to listen to soft music. Maybe it's journaling. Maybe it is lighting a candle in prayer. It's just kind of a quiet space that they can go and kind of tune out all the chaos out in the outside world.
So you're actively seeing clients now?
No, we have not. We have developed our business plan, of which I brought. I also brought you, if you want to see a notebook on the certified peer mentoring, it shows how the program was. Where we're at now, we've already written the business plan. We've got our 501c3 status. We've chosen our staff, and we've tentatively picked out a location for our office. Now the last thing is the money. We need to raise about $325,000 to open and run for the first year. Where we're getting like the startup funds, like for the furniture, the desks, the computers, the printers, those kind of things, we will be accessing the community block grants through our community foundations. And then we are hoping to access the counties. Our goal is to raise $100,000. And with the special use for the alcohol tax fund that the counties get, we're hoping we can get that. And then if there isn't enough in each county's whatever, in their alcohol tax fund. Well, like I said, we're hoping to raise $100,000. So if there's 9 counties, that's $11,000 apiece. Once we raise that $100,000, then we will be applying to the Dane G. Hansen Foundation for the remainder. So there's where
So
we're at.
you're at the starting gate of this. more or
Well,
less.
I don't know
Other
the
than the
starting
planning-
date. I've been working on this for almost
Other
a
than the
year.
planning portion of it, let's say you're at the beginning of now your financial.
Yes.
Take
yes,
off.
Yes.
Well, yes, we do. We don't have a lot of money in that fund. And as we heard this morning, for this purpose, a third of it could be used? Is that what you said?
Well, whatever is brought in, they divvy it out.
Right.
And so it's a third general, a third parks and recreation, and a third to drug and alcohol
There you go.
counseling. But apparently I need to be getting hold of some clients because they're scheduled with another facility for assessments that you've said aren't doing them. So
You might check with her to see if she's done, but my understanding,
let me ask you this, when will you know about the contract with corrections?
we're not even going to apply for that until we know we have the money. There's no reason for us to go, and we don't have a business, we don't have an office, so you really can't get licensed,
Right.
you know what I mean? You can't really
Right,
set
but-
up an
But another
agreement.
thing too is because I deal with a lot of people
Sure.
that have to get assessments and abide by those assessments, et cetera. Are you saying that your office is only going to be in Colby?
The only physical office will be at Colby, but we will cover all 9 counties. We will dispatch people out to the other counties.
So
If they're not able to come to Colby for our services, then we will send a peer mentor to them or the counselor to go to them. Because we're only going to have one licensed addiction counselor to start with. And if she needs to, she's going to have to cover 9 counties. And if they can come to Colby, because a lot of people come to Colby for shopping and stuff anyways, or for court or whatever, then that's fine. But if it's a situation where she needs to go to certain counties on certain days in order to do that, then we can do it
Do you have
that
any
way.
numbers in regards to how many people are in need?
It's way more than what people realize. We've talked to the Department of Corrections over in Colby, and, without getting specific records and everything, it sounds like there's close to 200 for Northwest
And you
Kansas.
have one counselor?
Only for that part of it, though. The peer mentors are where they're real doing the day-to-day stuff. Because a lot of times, they'll do she'll do the assessment, but then based on that, how often she'll need to see them, that's up to her.
Yeah, but if someone is on probation and they have an assessment done,
Mm-hmm.
and that assessment says that you will attend outpatient counseling,
Once a month or once a week or whatever it is.
Right.
Yep, that will be her.
and so if you've got 200 people in 9 counties,
But
spread over 9 counties.
And not everybody's going to come to us for the service. They still have a choice on who they seek out for services. We're just going to make that an additional service for Northwest Kansas. It's one more counselor than what we have in Northwest Kansas now, right? And so you're talking about for our funding, when we contract with, we sign it like an agreement to work with them. And that just means that they have checked our credentials, make sure we're in line with what the state requires, and then if that person is on corrections, because not every one of our clients are going to be on corrections. There's going to be individuals that come in and use our
Right,
services.
but you've got corrections and you've got court services. So you've got 2 entities. Corrections has their own people that they contract
I
with.
was saying 200 for both, sorry. I
Okay.
missed. I
Yeah,
didn't-
because corrections contracts with Smoky Hill out of Hayes.
Right, which is why we're opening one here, because a lot of people can't go to Hayes. Or, a lot of them, if they don't have the license, to get to Hayes, you get to Colby's hard enough, but to get clear to Hayes. And it's not, I guess what I'm saying, we're paying, as taxpayers, we're paying for these kind of services one way or the other. Eventually, when we start providing these services, in theory, the counties, I shouldn't say the counties, the cities, whatever, the locations in eastern Kansas that are already using this program are seeing the incarceration recidivism rate drop because it is an evidence-based program. Like I said, it's been in Kansas. It's not new to Kansas. It's just new out here. But like Wichita, Kansas City, Topeka, Lawrence, the more metro areas are already using this program.
You're not asking for funds today, though.
Well, the sooner we can get it, the better, because because I have to raise $100,000 and it's got to start somewhere. And then once I raise that $100,000, I've already applied to the grants for the community foundations. But once we have that $100,000, then we can go to Dane G. Hansen. We already tried Dane G. Hansen in the beginning, and they won't fund all of it. They want to see, they don't want to be the first one in, and they don't want to be the only one in. And so what I have been told is for us to raise the $100,000 and then come back.
So are you gonna be receiving any fees?
Yes, we will still bill to insurances. Like if somebody has their private insurance, just like they do now, we can bill to the insurances. And then that Senate Bill 123, that one pays for like for example, one of their fees is for the assessment part, they'll pay $175 for that assessment.
But that's only if you have the contract with corrections.
Correct, right. Which isn't, I mean, it's not like we're the only ones that could do that, I guess is what am I answering your question? It's basically an agreement that they've come out, they've checked our business license, they checked our credentials, they know that we're a legitimate collection agency. And then it's just kind of like Medicare, Medicaid, it's just you send in whatever you can. Right now.
Which that is another question I have. I mean, if you have an assessment done and someone qualifies for inpatient treatment, can you go through the state funding system?
We will at that point be able to go through that. We will be working, part of the agency is a resource. Our name of it is called High Point Advocacy and Resource Center. So we'll be a resource center out here. So we'll be able to make those referrals to different inpatient, whether it's Valley Hope or whether it's City on the Hill down in Southwest Kansas. It just depends on where they want to go.
Yeah, but Valley Hope is a private.
But they still take insurances.
Right, they take insurances, but I'm talking about your indigent person who's sitting in jail. And, you know, are you going to have access to the state funding so that their treatment is paid for?
We personally will not have access to it. Corrections might have that.
It's been my experience that it has to be the evaluators.
I would have to check on that
Okay.
then because I'm not familiar with that part of it.
Well, if we already set our budget, can we?
Well, here's one of the problems we face. We really don't start addressing our budget till about June. So we truly don't know where we're at until we get closer to that moment in time.
So the funds from that special tax fund, have you guys already been using? What I'm finding is some of the counties have been sending it to the place in Hayes because they are the closest place, and then other counties have been sitting on it because they didn't have anybody to send it to.
Well-
They wanted to save it for someplace that was going to provide services in their county.
And that's basically what we've done. We spent the money in our county to improve all things like the fairgrounds and the parks and recreation part of it.
But the
We have
portion
used-
that's supposed to go for the treatment, that is already spent?
Well, I can't answer that honestly without an auditor. But
Lord knows we don't want to call one of those in. That's not
none
fun.
of us would have to. And again, this time of year is just pretty murky water as far as future budgets are concerned. We generally start ours May, June, somewhere in there. And by the end of June or the 1st of July, we have a pretty good idea of what we have and where it can be spent. And I realize that doesn't help you much. But we can't put forth figures that we can't substantiate at a later point in time.
Sure.
I think what you're trying to say is until the final audit is done and we know exactly what is in that fund, you cannot
Yes.
pledge any funds.
Yeah.
We're not saying no, we're just saying we don't know what.
Until that budget's finalized,
Plus, I mean, to budget extra money, you would not get that money until
2021.
Well, here's the thing. That money should be there.
Right.
And
That's
what
kinda-
Sherry is trying to say is that money is in that fund. It's just, it's there. You guys have the authority to choose where that money is going to go because it's already there. Because it comes from a tax.
Right.
right. But she's wanting 11,000 approximately.
And all we could provide
It's
is
3,900.
3,900 is all we have in that budget at this time.
3948. I think is the number I got.
Discussion.
Wow.
I left you speechless. I love it.
Well, I for one would like to look for it and try to make a decision right today.
You're gonna approach all 9 counties. Are we number one here?
No, you're number 4.
Okay, and have
You're
you got any
number 4.
commitments from the others?
Decatur County says they're in if some of the others are in.